So it's my submission that you can even gather from the trace of predator to prey effect. When you take that paradigm and apply it to Jesus, you've got inbreds pursuing him, and they're either inbred by ideal, by loyalty to kingdom ideal, or by practicing it themselves. Either way, it's something we know leads to the extinction of species in the case of other species, and it's hard to know why didn't these kingdoms ultimately fall, leaving their scrolls behind as plunder to be discovered by other people who thought they were the wisest stories ever written, and then presto, there's your Bible. But my submission is that a non-inbred bilateral brain, bisexual heart, is not just something that an inbred would want to kill, but that they would want to kill while romanticizing the kill. You know how they say, like, killers who keep trophies? So they'd have trophies like the communion ceremony. Everyone take a biscuit. It's Jesus' body. Australia has got this crawler outwards aesthetic that I don't. On the one hand, we're making this continental comeback from being a colony that dealt with overpopulation, overflow of United Kingdom people, and that enslaved Aborigines. And yet we're supposedly united by an anthem that posits the rest of the world as our toil, world for toil. Toil talks about, I had a toilsome day at work. It was, or don't toil with me, I'll fight back. It means, to say the world is for toil is like saying, well, we're isolated and we're taking whatever advantages we can. And I can't respect that. It's why I don't sing the national anthem. I was initially deterred from just the sound of it. National anthems in general can have a cheesy sound about them, and that largely has something to do with the fact that the singing is so repetitive and routine that it sounds a bit flatline regardless. But in particular with Australia's national anthem, you've got Golden Soil and World for Toil. What about the United Nations of Benetton? What about us being a bridge to all nations? Well, we eliminate corrupt elements before we look at that. And I do consider that religious unifiers are the ones who are in business most organized, but in practice, I mean, like I said, the one thing that the three Abrahamic faiths haven't done is assertively state that there are fundamental differences between each of their versions of the devil. So the Masons can have three different gods to negotiate, and the devil, who they quite rather like. The devil puts on the showmanship routine, like when you see a devil's advocate court representation. It's very similar to that. What I'm wanting is for bisexual life expectancies to level out to the same as the rest of societies, and for there not to be this risk of death in 30s. Um, you know, if you live past 33, you too sing about it. They want you to be Jesus. They'll go down on one knee and they want their money back if you're alive at 33 and you're turning tricks with your crucifix. Um, so, biblical harmonists are people who take all the Gospels written about Jesus and mash them together. And it's a partially but incompletable project because of contradictory points. What they essentially want to do is expand Jesus' vocabulary and put a greater emphasis on the case that he actually genuinely performed a lot of laws of physics, breaking rituals and routines that aren't in the original Gospel of Mark, and that we know St. Paul the Apostle in the 50s had outsourced from his travels to pagan Rome. That's 50 of Common Era. So he'd gone there and learnt all about how they had Dionysus, the god of wine, who could turn water into wine. So what happens is they wanted to really credit Jesus as being like in the league of all these great people. But John chapter 1 verse 1 admits that they were without a word to describe his heart. In the beginning the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh. And it writes, and it's like, yes. So the word was called bisexual in the 1970s. So we've made some progress. It's now 50 years since that progress was flagged by Patti Smith and David Bowie, and who isn't going to be proud of their life's works. I must admit I'm more of a fan of Bowie, but that is largely due to lack of a lesser familiarity with Patti Smith's work. It's Manson who covered Rock and Roll Nigger, and she sang it originally. She's said to have been a bit stage wild too, so she's definitely someone I should check out. But yeah, I submit that before you can say anything else about Jesus, like he was wise enough to watch out for his group of fellow conquered enslaved Jews, you know, you can't say anything about his mind, heart, or psychology without first going, yep, bilateral. Bilaterals do that. Bilaterals in the company of others start just watching out for their welfare. That's a bilateral tendency. So yeah, what I think is that so long as this Jesus is supernatural case exists, it's going to have two meanings. One is that Jesus is either beyond nature and therefore can't be classed as part of naturalism, or there is yet to be a good enough or sufficient naturalist explanation to account for him. And I've suggested that is an oppressed first century bisexual. If that's accepted, then that question will be answered.